Hey, what's up, YouTubers? It's me again, Brian, aka Gamer55551. And those who may be watching this on Facebook as well. And I am back with a My 2 Cent Switch Slots gaming video for this week, for the week of June 23rd to the 29th, where I give you my thoughts and opinion on several different stories that came out that caught my attention. We got 5 this one to cover, though. We even have one that it's going to be political to some people, but I'm going to stand behind my position on this, though. But before we get to that, we do have 2 quick news to pop up, though. The first one, and one of them, of course, unfortunately, is a tragedy, though. The first one we learned is that Nintendo opened up a store in Israel, particularly in Tel Aviv, Israel, though. And it's kind of interesting, though, in that part of the world that Nintendo decided to open up a store over there. But nevertheless, we'll see how well it does over there and see if it catches on to the folks who live in Israel, though. So to those living in Israel who happen to be a Nintendo fan, I would say shalom to you guys out there. The other story we want to cover, and this one I think is unfortunately is a tragedy, and it was learned that one of the YouTubers, I think his name was Erica, if I'm saying the name correctly, I apologize or not, unfortunately passed away. It was believed that the NYPD found his body. It is believed to be, although I'm not 100% sure, but this is what I've been hearing, is that he committed suicide. And that is really, really unfortunate, though, that this happened to this individual. And I would like to say that my heart goes out to his friends and family who may be mourning his unfortunate death at this time. It is really a tragedy that this has happened to this unfortunate individual, to say the least, though. So, and like I said, I send my sympathy and my heart to his friends and his family members as well. Alright, so now why don't we get started with our My 2 Cent stories, and we got 5, and we'll start off with the first one, and this one has to do with NBA 2K19 and a bit of a controversy that has kind of emerged, though. Now, obviously, NBA 2K has been 19, or the NBA series, 2K series for 2K games, has been very successful for the company, but it has also been marred in some controversy. Some of it also has to do with a lot of the microtransactions that have been in the game, and not everyone is pleased with that. But there may be another controversy that has kind of emerged at this time, and this one has to do with in-game advertisement. So, I'm not thinking about to sneeze, but hopefully you don't. This one has to do, and this may have upset a lot of people. So, from an article from IGN, it is reported that NBA 2K19 players are complaining that unskippable ads are surfacing in the basketball sim game across multiple platforms. In a Reddit thread created Saturday, Reddit users posted a screenshot of a loading screen from NBA 2K, along with the caption of unskippable ads in a $60 game explicit 2K, and it showed an unskippable ad, but also it showed a picture of them advertising the FX TV show Snowfall. It says, and the article continues saying, loading screen advertisements aren't a new concept in 2K sports game. A helpful post on NBA 2K subreddit explains you can disable them by turning off 2K TV in the game setting, but this influx of complaints across Reddit and social media indicates the rate of ads may have taken an upswing. Other Reddit users are users in the same thread are chiming in with their thoughts. Just experienced this, one Reddit user. Ads on free mobile games is one thing. I already paid for this. Sorry, explicit word. Pay for this, not cool. It's worth noting that NBA 2K19 very recently went on sale across multiple platforms for $2.99, $3, or similar prices, making it about a 95% discount. Being an annualized series with a new game coming out around September every year, it's not unreasonable to think that 2K was attempting to bring in a new wave of players before switching focus over to the eventual release of NBA 2K20 later this year. The sneaky, inappropriate word, Another person wrote, sells a game at a $3 price point to get an influx of players so they could pull this blank. Such a predatory company, it's disgusting. Now, as I mentioned earlier, it's been reported that you can turn this off. And then one Reddit user basically pointed out that says, and as I mentioned in the IGN article, but also mentioned this on Nintendo Life as well. Again, links will be in the description of this video. You could turn off 2K TV in the settings. Won't going to get the ads, nor that removes TV before games and so forth. So apparently not everyone is happy about them putting these ads in, and I don't actually blame them or anything. While it's nice that you can turn these ads off in a way, I can see why people are pretty much upset about this, especially if a game is reportedly rated E for everyone and they're showing an advertisement for a TV show like Snowfall on FX that is basically rated TVMA. So I can understand that, but I can also understand why not everyone likes that. It goes into the fact that a lot of these AAA video game companies are trying to do, heavy monetization and so forth, gives the impression that they're trying to nickel and dime people to death. And well, with NBA 2K having, microtransactions in it and this, yeah, I can see why people are pretty much pissed off about it. So my overall take is that while it's great that you can disable it, though, I can understand why a lot of people are upset about it. And I will admit it is kind of scummy, though. Again, it sounds like you can turn this feature off, but still, I understand why some people are pretty much upset about this. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to get to part 2, and this one has to do with a report of the possibility that Diablo 4, that some people have seen it, though, and that we could be seeing it. We may or may not, we don't know, but we could be seeing it at some point. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 2 of our My 2 Cent video for this week. And for this one, we're going to be taking a look at the Diablo 4 and basically report that the game may be further along than a lot of people had thought. Now, last year it was teased at BlizzCon basically that Diablo 4 was in development. Of course, that announcement got overshadowed mostly because Blizzard and Activision think it was a smart move to show off and focus heavily on Diablo Immortal, an upcoming mobile game with the Diablo name that is basically going to be a free-to-play. And well, that rubbed people the wrong way, but we also got some iconic moments out of it, such as the famous, "Is this an out-of-season April Fool" jokes, to the question about whether this game will be available on consoles, and they are basically saying it won't be, and then they gave the infamous, "What, you guys don't have phones," which was not great. Considering the fact that another mobile title, Blade 2, The Return of Evil, recently got released on the Switch, which is also a mobile title, but unlike Diablo Immortal, this one, even though it's a mobile title, has no microtransaction, and it's actually not a bad game. It's not going to give Diablo 3 a run for its money, but it's not as bad as a lot of people make it out to be. But anyway, it seems as though we're getting some information coming out that basically Diablo 4 might be coming along very well, and there is that chance we could hear about it at BlizzCon this year. In an article from Screen Rant, though, it's entitled, and again, link will be in the description, "Blizzard already has a Diablo 4 build worth showing." It says, quote, "Diablo 4 is already being shown to developers at Blizzard Entertainment, at least those in their French office in France, according to a French newspaper, the Monde, apologize for not saying it correctly. Diablo 4 was one of the surprise leak in a report that also revealed the existence of Overwatch 2 and cancellation of another long line of disappointing attempts at a StarCraft spin-off, this time in an FPS title though. Why not just make it like a strategy game that StarCraft was mostly famous for? Blizzard, you can't do that at all or anything like that. Anyway, Diablo 4 is seen to have something of a saving grace for the franchise, and it will inevitably, apologize if I'm not saying it correctly, have a lot of hopes pinned squarely upon its shoulders whenever it's officially announced by Blizzard. It's the follow-up to a lackluster BlizzCon announcement that saw fans rally against the revival of Diablo Immortal, a mobile spin-off of the series that's partially so revived by fans who were already expecting Diablo 4. While Blizzard has since acknowledged that the timing of the announcement might have been poorly planned in retrospect, the company and sales figures, which indicates Diablo Immortal is a smart move from Blizzard, will remain focused on developing that title. Alright. However, Diablo 4 is likely further along in development than fans may have first expected, according to the French newspaper VI Bloody Disgusting. Blizzard has already shown employees in their French office a build of Diablo 4. While that doesn't necessarily mean the game is anywhere near completion, it does signal that at least in a form that it can be demode, which means it could very well be a heavy focus of BlizzCon this year beyond the cinematic trailer many are expecting. Here's what a translated article said in regards to Diablo 4. Teams at Blizzard Entertainment have already been presented with the long-awaited Diablo 4 and know that the new Overwatch game is in development. Neither of these two games will be released before 2020 at the very best, and employees at the French office have no idea if they will still be around when they eventually release. The later half of the quote refers to the fact that Activision Blizzard announced sweeping layoffs for the company earlier this year, with many European staff members entirely unsure whether or not they will be affected. Despite Diablo 4 development going well, there are obviously some issues with Blizzard's work environments that start at the top of the company and unfairly affects employees. The company has acknowledged that it needs to be better since the layoff announcement, and has even committed to making World of Warcraft a no-crunch game, so there's still time to turn things around for the popular developer. So basically it shows, based on what they're saying though, it looks like we could be hearing about Diablo 4 at this year's BlizzCon, which certainly would be nice, and hopefully this would make up for those who felt like last year's was just focused on Diablo Immortal, which obviously, based on pissed off a lot of fans, which to some degree I kind of have to agree with a lot of the fans on this one, though. I think they could have handled the announcement better. As much as I am happy that they're doing a Diablo 4, I still have some concerns about it. I mean, other than we have to see what the gameplay is, all that stuff. The big concern, of course, is, given this is from Activision Blizzard, it's going to be the monetization. There are some people, and I do think some people will be concerned about, is how badly is Activision going to nickel and dime this game? Are they going to create it to a situation where they are forcing people to really spend money on in-game currencies or microtransactions? As we've seen in the past how Activision tried to file a patent to try to create a situation where you're encouraging people to spend money on microtransactions. Not to mention they're under fire with the way Call of Duty Black Ops 4, I believe, if that's the game, is being handled with the terms of recurring monetization. So there are some concerns about Diablo 4, and I think, to me, that's the big one. How badly is the microtransactions are going to be in this game? So, and given the reputation Activision Blizzard has earned, that is certainly a red flag right there. Also, we don't know if Diablo 4 will be making its way to any of the consoles. Obviously, we know it will probably come to PC. Well, that's pretty obvious. But we don't know if it will make its way to, say, consoles like the PS4, the Xbox One, or the upcoming PS5 or Xbox Scarlet, or even the Nintendo Switch, if they're going to get a version of Diablo 4, despite the fact that supposedly out of the top list of best-selling third-party games on the Nintendo Switch, it seems as though Diablo 3 was definitely performed very well. But given Activision Blizzard's approach to the Nintendo Switch, there are some concerns that they may not bring Diablo 4 over to the Nintendo Switch or anything like that. Again, it's too early to say. We'll have to wait and see, but I wouldn't be shocked if they decided they are not bringing it over or anything like that, which would be a shame considering how successful the Nintendo Switch is and how some developers have found success on the Nintendo Switch. So we'll have to wait and see about that. So overall, it's nice that Diablo 4 is in the works and all that stuff. It's nice that it seems to be coming along, and we may be seeing it at this year's BlizzCon, but it does raise some questions, especially with the monetization part, given Activision and Blizzard's history, and whether or not this could see a release beyond PC, maybe on the consoles, like the consoles I mentioned, PS4, Xbox One, or the upcoming PS5 or Xbox Scarlet, or even the Nintendo Switch, for that matter. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to get to part 3, and this one has to do with regarding the situation with the Switch version of Bloodstained, Ritual of the Night. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 3 of our My 2 Cent video, and for this one we're going to be talking about the situation in regards to the Switch version of Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. Now, before I begin talking about Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, or at least the Nintendo Switch version, I do want to give a full disclosure right out of the gate, and the disclosure I want to give is the fact that I am one of the folks who backed this game when it was originally announced in 2015. So I am one of those backers, and I did receive my backer's copy of the game on Monday of this week, though. On I think it's 24th to be exact. And any opinion I have about in regards to the version that I'm playing right now is based on my opinion and my opinion alone. I am not being paid, sponsored, or endorsed by either the developer's Artplay or the publisher's 505 Games. So I just want to get that disclosure out right out of the gate. So now that we got that out, we'll talk about Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. And now basically the game for the Switch came out this week, though. Excuse me a second. After it was delayed when the other versions have come out, and some people are not happy with the Nintendo Switch version, as there have been reports of basically lag, to basically the game crashing, to even some people seeing the frame rate has dropped. Now, 505 Games, or the developers, have responded to this in a way, and in several articles though, but in one update on their Kickstarter page, it reads posted by the creator of the Bloodstained series, Koji Inagami. Apologize for not saying the name correctly though. And here's what he has to say. Quote, "We have been listening to the feedback regarding the Switch performance. Our goal is for everyone, regardless of platform, to be able to enjoy the game and have it run smoothly. We want to live up to your and our expectation. Throughout the QA process, we have been addressing performance issues in the game. Update 1.01 was published to the Switch prior to the launch to add content and improve performance. It did not accomplish as much as we had hoped, and we need to do more. To address the concerns brought up by the community, we are immediately shifting resources to improve performance and stability for the Switch. You can expect a number of small updates that will improve different areas of the game rather than waiting long for one big update. We will have more details as we dive into the work. We thank you for your patience and apologize for the inconvenience. Writes Jason Ryan, Senior Communications Manager at 505 Games. Now, I have played Bloodstained Ritual of the Night on the Nintendo Switch, and I have invested a couple hours on it, some of it grinding a little bit though, and based on my time with the game, and again, I can't speak for everyone. I know that some people may have a different experience if they picked up the Switch version compared to what my experience would be. I'm fully aware of that though. I would say I haven't really ran into any major issues or anything like that though. There have been some cases where I've seen the game kind of freeze for a couple seconds and then continue on, and I have seen some slowdown in some areas, but I haven't ran into any major bugs, glitches, or had the game crash or had me kicked out of the game or anything like that. And the fact that the game runs at 30 frames per second though, doesn't hugely bother me as much. I won't deny I would like it to run at 60 frames per second, even at a resolution of 720p. I mean, look at games like Null, for example. That game had a graphical option where you could run it at 1080p 30 frames per second or 720p 60 frames per second. Even Fire Emblem Warriors did that as well. So I'm a little bit surprised they didn't do something like that or have it run at 60 frames at 720p though. But nevertheless, despite it running at 30 frames per second, I haven't really ran into many issues and all that stuff. And I've been playing the game, and it has that classic Metroidvania look and feel. That said, I will admit there are certainly some areas that they could improve upon. I think the visuals can be improved a little bit, though. I mean, the art style looks nice and everything like that, and I understand the Switch isn't as powerful as the PS4 or the Xbox One, or even the PC for that matter. But I've seen games that have been at low resolutions or have limitations on the Switch that look a bit better. I mean, look at games like Doom or Wolfenstein 2, the new Colossus on the Nintendo Switch. Those are graphically demanding games, and yet those look and run well though. So I do think the Switch version does need some touching up though. I don't know whether or not they just rushed it out or anything like that, but it's clear there are some areas the game does need to be addressed, and obviously there are some areas some people are experiencing some problems though. While I do think the developers do deserve to be criticized for this and the way the Switch version was being handled, I will at least give them credit for the fact that they are willing to admit that, yeah, this was not how this situation should have been handled. We should have done a better job. We should have addressed some of these concerns, and we're going to put time and effort to fix this problem. So I will at least applaud them for doing that. I think that's a good thing. Don't get me wrong. I still think people do have a right to level criticism against them, especially in an age where many consumers and gamers feel like we're in the attitude of ship it incomplete or broken now or patch it later kind of attitude that some developers have taken, and I don't blame them for being upset about that kind of situation. But I will at least give them credit that they are willing to address the problems that the Switch version is facing, and hopefully they will fix that kind of situation though. I would like to see the game become a success, especially on the Switch, although I could see how it may not do well due to the fact that many people felt like they got like an incomplete or a broken version, to be exact. If the game does well, and if they do decide to do a sequel, which I would be down if they do a sequel, I'm hoping that lessons were clearly learned about this, especially with the Switch port, because I don't know who handled the Switch version, but I think maybe they need to do a better job with whoever's handling the Switch version, or give it to the development team that understands the Switch in and out. So I will say, overall, I do think that there is fair criticism to level at them for the way the Switch version was handled, but I will applaud the development team that they are willing to admit that there were mistakes that were made, and they are doing what they can to address the problem. So we'll see how well we'll see if they address it down the road. They supposedly don't want to release one big update, but release drips of updates. So we'll see if that improves the game or not. I don't have a review for it yet, so I'll try to get to review as soon as possible. But overall, like I said, yes, I understand the criticism. I think the criticism towards them in terms of how the Switch version was handled is legitimate, but I also will applaud the development team for at least acknowledging the problem. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to get to part 4, and this one has to do with Platinum Games making comments in regards of the upcoming Astral Chain for the Nintendo Switch, and a comment they made about in regards of the upcoming release of the PS5 and the Xbox Scarlet. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 4 of our My Two Cent video for this week. And for this one, we're going to be taking a look at Platinum Games and some comments they made in regards of their upcoming release of Astral Chain, and of course, the issue in regards of the next generation of consoles. Now, I'll be honest with you, I'm a huge Platinum fan. I love a lot of the games they have put out. My very first time playing a Platinum game was in 2009 with the release of Mad World for the Nintendo Wii. It was basically a over-the-top action game which had an art style, a black and white art style similar to the movie Sin City. It's a shame the game didn't sell very well, which is unfortunate because I would be open if they were to do either a remake of that game, maybe on the Nintendo Switch, and B, a sequel. I really would like to see a sequel. Other games from them, of course, are The Wonderful 101, which is an underrated game, and I really wish they would go back to that one, although there have been some stories talking about that they are talking about it as well. To, of course, Bayonetta 1 and 2, Vanquish, and, of course, Infinity Space on the Nintendo DS, a game that someone had a learning curve, and maybe they'll go back to that one at some point down the road. But either way, they're working on their upcoming release of Astral Chain for the Nintendo Switch, a game that is definitely on my radar that's supposed to be coming out on August 30th, 2019, parting any kind of major delay, though. And there were some comments that the founder of Platinum Games made in regards to the possibility of a trilogy that we could see from this, with a bit of an update after that story came out. In an article reported on N3, part about N3RDAB, I think L3. Link will be in the description. You could just check it out yourself. It says the original article writes, quote, "Typically, developers wait to see how a new IP does before discussing any plans for a sequel or continuation. Apparently, according to a recent IGN interview, Astral Chain director confirmed that there are plans to have Astral Chain to be a trilogy, assuming the new title sells well enough." During the IGN interview, one of the directors said the following: "Currently, there are no plans to publish extra content for Astral Chain. We're making the game as a trilogy, and this is the first part of that trilogy. If the game sells well, we might see how the story of the series continues." To be fair, Platinum Games has a solid roster of action RPG titles, which surely gives them confidence to make such a bold claim this prematurely. Titles like Vanquish, Metal Gear Rising, Bayonetta, and Nier Automata. Bayonetta, Vanquish, and Nier Automata, those are really good games. You guys should definitely try those out. Have all been touched by the once co-designer turned game director. Joining, I think, Tora on Astral Chain is Hideo Kamiya, if I'm saying the name correctly, who directed both the original Resident Evil 2 and Okami. Between the two is an impressive library of titles that all have been well received from their combat and gameplay. So yeah, I think it's safe to assume that Astral Chain could definitely be Platinum's new trilogy. Now, after that statement came out, there was a bit of an update, and they wanted to sort of clarify this. They said, quote, due to a mistranslation in the original interview, the director of it, though, I think the name is Takasa Tora, Taura, again, I apologize if I'm not saying the name correctly, has taken to Twitter to state that he said that he is simply thinking about how Astral Chain could be expanded into a trilogy if the first game was to sell well, not that there were any extension design in place for this to happen. So I'm glad he kind of clarified that, because while I certainly would be open to the idea of a trilogy for Astral Chain, because I'm definitely looking forward to it though, I think it'd be too premature to talk about doing a trilogy this early, considering we don't know if the game will do well or not, or anything like that. I mean, we've seen developers have tried to push for turning a franchise into like a media empire or a trilogy. Mighty Number 9 rings a bell, though, only to have it all cancel when everything just falls apart or the first game does piss poorly. So I think it's a little bit too premature to be talking about a trilogy for Astral Chain, but I'm glad they're kind of leaving the door open to that possibility. Obviously, they don't want to see how well this game does on the Nintendo Switch before making any decision to do one, though. I have high hopes for it. It's definitely a title I'm looking forward to trying out, but we'll have to wait and see. So overall, I'm glad they kind of clarified that one and basically are saying, you know what, we do want to do a trilogy, but let's wait and see how well this game does sell. Now, another thing Platinum recently talked about was in regards to basically the upcoming PS5 and Xbox Scarlet, and this comes from the Platinum Games founder. The article is from DualShock, and according to what Platinum is saying, or at least what the article is saying, is that, quote, now that Sony and Microsoft have each revealed the details of their next generation platform in the PS5, the person saying name's pending, but my guess is going to be called the PS5, and the Xbox Scarlet, some developers are starting to speak out with their own thoughts on what has been shown of the new hardware thus far. While many have sounded enthusiastic about the prospect of working with these new machines, others sound a bit of a letdown. Speaking to VGC, Platinum Games, the head of Platinum Games, gave some of his own brief thoughts on the upcoming platform and sounded a bit discouraged by them. While saying that the initial upgrade of both consoles will be great for consumers, the architects behind each is largely based off of existing tech, meaning that neither machine is all that unique. But it's more of the same, quite frankly, compared to previous generations. It's nothing that disrupts or super innovates, if you ask me, the head of Platinum says. Game hardware used to be about custom chips that you can't do on PC. Now, if you look at it, they're just grabbing stuff that already exists. He continues on to say, it's hard to get excited about stuff that kind of already exists but has been repurposed to a certain degree. Speaking more to what excites him nowadays, the head of Platinum says that he's very interested in cloud gaming realm and seems to find the technology in that area most fascinating. That's why for me, things like cloud platform represents innovation and something very, very different though. They're platforms that excite me and to where I feel there's a lot more innovation happening. He defines, the head of Platinum definitely has a point when he said, and based off the Eternals for Xbox Scarlet and PS5, both machines sound pretty similar. Both will be using Eternals from AMD, and both have emphasized the use of SSD to dramatically cut down on loading time. Considering the Xbox One and PS4 were both pretty similar when they launched as well, it's not shocking at all that their next generation successors will be very similar to one or another. Even if neither Microsoft or Sony are going outside the box any longer when it comes to putting these new platforms together, at the very least, PS5 and Scarlet both sound quite powerful. It will be interesting to see what developers are able to do with these new machines as over the next year as we start getting our first glimpse of what games running these platforms will look like. And in regards to his comments about the PS5 and Xbox Scarlet, I'm kind of a little bit mixed on his response, though. I don't entirely disagree with him that the platforms could be just more of the same, though, because I feel like this at this point we're reaching a point in the generation that we're not seeing that big leap or anything. Unlike how we saw on the days when we went from the NES to the Super NES, from the Super NES to the N64, from the N64 to the GameCube, and so forth. Or, like from the PS1 to the PS2, from the PS2 to the PS3, or to, PS3 to the PS4. I just don't feel like we're seeing that kind of leap or anything like that. But I don't entirely agree with him on the comments where he says, quote, game hardware used to be about custom chips that you couldn't do on PC. Now you're looking at it and they're just grabbing stuff that already exists. Not sure about that. I don't think there's anything wrong with consoles trying to be as close to, like, if I'm saying this correctly though, as close to PC as possible. While no matter what, PC will always have an advantage, having games that are like close to PC isn't necessarily a bad thing. If I remember reading the Switch, the architectural structure on that one is similar or close to a PC, or mostly towards like a low-setting PC to be exact. So to make these consoles more closer to PC, to me, it's not a bad thing. It means that hopefully developers that like to develop on PC will look at this and figure maybe there's a way we could bring these games over to the consoles if the architectural structure is similar to that of a PC. As far as the cloud gaming one, his comments about that, I'm kind of mixed on this one though. While I do think cloud gaming, and I do think that there is potential, such as I think there is potential with Google Strata though, I do understand that it does raise some concerns, and I don't disagree with it, especially as we're starting to see some video game companies start pushing for a subscription-based service with a lot of the games and all that stuff. And I can understand why some people may be upset of having to sign up to different subscription-based service just to play a certain game and everything like that. So, and the whole idea of ownerships and whether or not certain games cannot be played due to, copyright issues and all that stuff. Like, for example, I'm not a big wrestling fan or anything like that, but there are those that view, like, WWE No Mercy and WrestleMania 2000 as, like one of their favorite wrestling games of all time. Excuse me. But, unfortunately, you don't see, like, a remake or, like, a virtual console release of that due to certain copyright issues and so forth. So, I have concerns about it. Plus, the issue of, can you play it anywhere or anything like that? Because not everywhere is going to have a Wi-Fi or internet connection, to be exact. So, it does raise some concerns. I think cloud gaming has potentials, but I do think there are some hurdles that still have to be overcome before people are willing to accept cloud gaming or streaming gaming like that. Again, I think there is potential, and I do think we are going to reach a point where that will be the new norm, but it's going to be a lot of convincing, and I'm not 100% sure everyone is entirely sold on the idea just yet. So overall, I think the Head of Platinum raises some interesting points though, but I don't 100% agree with exactly everything he just said and so forth though. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to get to our fifth story, and this one, a bit of a disclaimer warning, or a bit of a warning. This one's going to be political, and this one has to do with Donald Trump's tariffs and the impact it could have on the gaming industry. So if you don't want to hear anything political, then you might want to skip this part. This is why I left it at part 5 as the last part. We'll be talking about that. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with our fifth and final part of our My 2 Cent video for this week. And this one is, as I mentioned earlier, is going to be a political one. And this one has to do with the impact that Trump's tariffs could have on video games, particularly for consoles and those who might be looking to get the PS5 or Xbox One Scarlet. Now, if you are not interested in seeing a political view or anything like that, you may want to skip this part. That's why I save it as the last part rather than in the first part of this video. And I will stand behind my position on it, though. Now, as some of you are probably aware of, Donald Trump has been pushing the tariff as in a response to trying to get at China, mostly due, basically in terms of basically what they view as screwing American people over and all that stuff. At least as far as I'm aware of, though. But there have been some criticisms towards the decision for Trump to add tariffs towards China, as some consumers and some people are feeling like they're going to feel the pinch. We've heard reports about how farmers are going to be impacted on this, and now it seems as though the gaming industry, particularly the big three console manufacturers, Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo, are speaking out against this decision by the Trump administration to put out the tariffs. In an article from Nintendo Life, again, links will be in the description of this video, it reads, quote, "If you keep up with the global politics or happen to live in North America, you might have heard about the recent proposal tariff on Chinese goods by the Trump administration. In a rare display, Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft have joined forces in a 7-page letter to warn the American government about the impact this could potentially have on the video game industry, explaining how a 25% tariff increase would result in U.S. consumers paying more than $840 million more for their consoles. The letter goes on to explain how 96% of all video games were constructed in China over the past year, and having to rework the supply chain to avoid these costs would likely cause significant disruption to production. The video game console supply, and according to what the article reads, one of the comments in the letter reads, the video game console supply chain has developed in China over many years of investment by our companies and our partners. It will cause significant supply chain disruption to ship sources entirely to the United States or a third country, and it would increase costs, even beyond the cost of proposed tariff on products that are already manufactured under tight margin conditions. It further states how the proposed tariffs would depress sales of video game consoles and games and services that drive the profitability of the market, and a 25% increase will likely put new consoles out of reach for the average American family this holiday season. At this point in time, trade talks between the United States and China are ongoing. These newly proposed tariffs could come to a halt if significant progress is made at the G20 summit in Osaka, Japan this weekend. Now, there are times when I will side with the gaming industry on certain things, and there are times when I will go against them. In regards of stuff like microtransactions or loot boxes and all, this is where I would certainly go against them in terms of basically trying to nickel and dime consumers and all that and so forth. As we've seen some companies like EA double down on microtransaction, going out of their way to basically try to defend the practice, though, and we saw with the surprise mechanic comments that we have made. I also am willing to go against the game industry when we've heard stories of like crunch, where developers are caught basically forced to work extra long times, extra long hours to complete a game and so forth, as we saw with the situation with Anthem when it was broken, when the story broke out about how a lot of developers were in crunch time, to even some seeking like help and all that stuff. And I certainly don't disagree with the argument about the possibility about developers considering to unionize as well. So there are certain situations where I certainly will criticize the industry, and there are some rightfully so criticisms though. But there are occasions when I do basically will side with the industry on certain things. And in the case of the tariffs, though, I do have to side with Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo. Yes, I do think we need to stand up from China from screwing us over, but I don't think it should be at the expense of consumers. I don't think consumers should be screwed over because of Donald Trump's decision to add tariffs to it. I think it is wrong. I don't think the consumers should be forced, including the middle class people, should be forced to pay more and more for these consoles and all that stuff. And I certainly do not approve of what Trump is doing. Then again, I think say what you will about this, but I still stand behind what I'm saying, though. I still think Trump is a deplorable human being to begin with, but that's for different issues to be exact. So I will say I do think companies like Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo are right about this one, though. I don't think the tariffs are the right decision to go. I think consumers are going to be the one to be paying the price on this one. Yes, I do think there are certainly some areas where I will disagree with the industry. I do think we need to do something about China, but it shouldn't be at the expense of the average consumer, to be exact. And on this particular issue, though, I will side with basically the big three gaming manufacturers, or the big three video game console manufacturers, Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo, on this one. I do not think the tariffs are a smart decision. I don't think the average consumer should be screwed over because of this, and I think they are wrong. Then again, a lot of stuff that Donald Trump does is downright wrong and deplorable as well. So overall, on this particular issue, as far as the tariff goes, I will stand with Sony and Microsoft on this one. I do not support the tariffs, and I don't think consumers should be screwed over. Like I said, there are times when I will go against the game industry and certain issues, such as microtransactions to the treatment of their employees, though. But there are times, but in this issue, I do kind of have to side with them a little bit on this. The tariffs are wrong, at least in my opinion. And yes, I still stand behind my comment on saying that I think Donald Trump is a deplorable human being, though, and I'm not changing that opinion whatsoever. Okay, this concludes this My 2 Cent video for this week. And again, these are my opinion. What are yours? What are your thoughts about the controversy in regards of NBA 2K19 in terms of putting advertisement in here only and later learning that you can turn this feature off? Do you think that they gone a little too far with this, or do you think some people are blowing this way out of proportion? What are your thoughts about some reports about Diablo 4 coming along well, though? Are you excited for Diablo 4? Are you looking forward to when they actually show it off? Do you think they'll show it off at this year's BlizzCon? Or are you worried about the possibility of giving Activision and Blizzard's history of them nickel and diming Diablo 4? And do you think we may see this on the consoles as well? Even maybe possibly see it on the Nintendo Switch? What are your thoughts about in regards of the Switch version of Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, though? Were you disappointed when the Switch version came out? Do you think it's as bad as people claim it is? Do you think it's not as bad as people claim it is? Do you think it was right for the developers to respond to this? And do you think that they will fix the situation in regards to the Switch version of Bloodstained Ritual of the Night? What are your thoughts about some of the comments Platinum made, though? Would you like to see Astral Chain turn into a trilogy in any way? Or do you think they shouldn't turn it into a trilogy at all? And do you think they're right about some of the comments about the next generation of consoles, to their thoughts about cloud gaming? And although this was political, and I know not everyone will like what I said or anything like that, what are your thoughts about the Trump tariffs and the impact it could have on video games in general? Do you defend Trump on this in any way? As I said before, I certainly don't, and I have my reasons why I don't like Trump. Or do you think this was a bad idea for the Trump administration to add these tariffs? And do you think the three console manufacturers, Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo, are right that this could have an impact on basically consumers in terms of buying video games in any way? Do you agree with what I said in this video? Do you disagree? Do you have a difference of opinion? As always, sound off on the comment section below. And give me your thoughts and your opinion on it as well. And I hope you hit that like button. I would appreciate it if you like this video. And I hope you do subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you do subscribe to my YouTube channel, make sure you hit the bell icon for notification of any new videos I put up. Also, feel free to share this video if you want to. And if you like, feel free to donate to my channel if you want to. If you do decide to donate to my channel, you could do it through PayPal me or Patreon. I'll have a link in the description of this video. And I will see you again next time when I do another video. Hopefully that'll be soon. Until then, from Southern California, I wish you all a good day then. Bye.